The PlayStation 2 boots up, that low hum, the floating cube, memory card detected, and suddenly it's 2006 again. Arcade chaos, cheat codes scribbled on paper, controller wires stretched across the room, Rockstar logos flashing, car chases, police sirens, satirical radio hosts yelling in your ear. You weren't surviving, you were dominating. Open worlds, big explosions, bigger personalities, games that felt rebellious, but fun. Rockstar didn't just make violence entertaining, they made it stylish. And then, something changed. The colours faded, the jokes stopped, the music cut out. Instead of city lights, you get fluorescent flicker. Instead of satire, you get silence. Instead of power, you wake up strapped to a hospital bed. No radio, no open world, no swagger. Just a riot in a decaying asylum, and a voice in your ear telling you to move. Manhunt 2 wasn't loud, it was uncomfortable. It wasn't cool, it was clinical. Banned, censored, condemned. And unlike Rockstar's usual chaos, this didn't feel like fun. It felt personal. So how did the kings of arcade rebellion end up here? To answer that, we need to start in Dixmoor Asylum. Manhunt 2 opens under fluorescent lights and institutional decay. Dixmoor Asylum looks exhausted. Peeling paint, flickering bulbs, security doors that feel one bad day away from falling down completely. Daniel Lamb wakes up in the middle of a riot, sedated, confused, and very clearly shitting the bed. There's no cinematic empowerment here, just guards shouting over alarms and patients flooding corridors. The whole building feels unstable, like Facebook Marketplace furniture. In Awakening, your objective is simple: get the fuck out. You move through tight hallways and security checkpoints, while guards sweep the area. Early encounters are messy and awkward. The stealth feels deliberate, sometimes clunky, sometimes tense. Whether that stiffness is artistic choice or just mid-2000s design, it ends up reinforcing the mood. Daniel doesn't glide through the asylum, he stumbles through it. And then Leo shows up. He doesn't introduce himself like a helpful guide. He acts like he's been here before. Calm, focused, almost amused. By the time Ghosts begins, the chaos of the riot gives way to something more controlled. The routes narrow, the lighting drops, maintenance corridors and shadowed rooms replace the open panic of the ward. The game starts pushing you forward with more intention. Leo becomes more present too. More assertive in how he directs Daniel. He encourages aggression, quick ambushes, close range executions. The violence isn't stylish or flashy, it's uncomfortable and personal. Pipes, shards, plastic bags, tools that feel improvised rather than heroic. Daniel remains quiet, Leo fills the silence, and that imbalance starts to feel important. The game never clarifies who Leo really is. It doesn't need to. His confidence grows in proportion to your actions. The more you follow his lead, the smoother the escape feels. By the end of these two missions, Dixmoor isn't just a backdrop for an escape sequence. It feels like an introduction to Daniel's internal state, fractured, unstable, and guided by a voice that seems a little too eager. And he's a prick. Somewhere between sneaking past guards and carrying out your first execution, something shifts. You're not just trying to get out anymore, you're starting to move with purpose, and that purpose doesn't entirely feel like your own. Escaping Dixmoor doesn't bring freedom, it just upgrades the nightmare. Sexual Deviants drops Daniel into a roadside motel that looks like it's been condemned 3 separate times and somehow keeps reopening. Neon buzzing outside, wallpaper peeling, the kind of place where the carpet has seen things. The asylum was institutional horror. This is human horror. Armed, unstable men roam the corridors. They shout, they panic, they fire wildly. There's no sense of order here, just volatility. You're not slipping past guards anymore. You're moving through a building full of people who feel one bad thought away from snapping. And Leo thrives in it. He's calmer now, sharper. He doesn't hesitate when telling Daniel what to do. He talks like this is familiar territory, like chaos is something he understands intimately. The executions feel closer here, dirtier, less desperate. There's a noticeable shift in rhythm too. Daniel moves with more intention, less stumbling, more stalking. It's subtle, but it's there. But then it somehow gets worse. If the motel felt grimy, red light feels artificial. You step into a strip club, washed in neon red, the kind of lighting designed to hide flaws and exaggerate everything else. Music loops endlessly. Security prowl the floor with the intention of a racist in Ghana. That's fucking deep. It's loud, it's flashy, and it feels completely hollow. The asylum was decaying. The motel was desperate. This place is performative. You move through VIP rooms, backstage corridors, narrow hallways wrapped in velvet and bad decisions. Every corner feels staged, like the whole building is pretending to be glamorous while rotten underneath. It's a whorehouse for murderers, and a playhouse for Leo. Before we continue, let's just have a quick chat about the controversy. 2007, Manhunt 2 didn't just release, it detonated. The BBFC banned it in the UK. Ireland followed. The ESRB initially slapped it with an adults-only rating in the US, which is basically the kiss of death for console games. Politicians got involved, news anchors clutched pearls. The Wii version, yes, the Wii version, was treated like a gateway to societal collapse, all because of violence. Now here's the factual part. The game was censored before its official console release. Executions were blurred, visual filters were added, entire sequences were toned down. The version most people played was already edited. And despite the moral panic, there is no credible evidence linking Manhunt 2 to a real-world violent crime. None. It became the poster child for a broader video game debate that was already happening. It wasn't uniquely dangerous, it was uniquely easy to point fingers at. And context matters. This wasn't a sandbox encouraging chaos for fun. It was a linear psychological thriller with a deeply unstable protagonist. The violence wasn't stylish empowerment, it was ugly, uncomfortable, and intentionally close. You don't feel cool playing Manhunt 2, you feel tense, sometimes disturbed, and sometimes really fucking annoyed, which might actually be the point. Did Rockstar push boundaries? Absolutely. Did the game deserve scrutiny? Sure, but the idea that this one PS2 title was going to unravel society? That's given a strip club stealth mission a lot of credit. In reality, the controversy says as much about the mid-2000s media panic as it does about the game itself. And ironically, the bans did exactly what outrage always does. They made people want to play it more. Okay, let's get back to the gameplay. Okay, let's take a breath and really sit with these two missions. In Manhunt 2, Best Friends and Safe House don't just throw gore at you, they quietly dismantle Daniel Lamb's entire sense of self, one bloody revelation at a time. The moment the mask slips, and you feel the weight of everything he's forgotten, and everything he's about to remember. Best Friends is a flashback, 6 years earlier, and its purpose is brutally simple. It shows you exactly how Daniel's nightmare began. Leo isn't some voice in his head yet. He's the friend pulling the strings, turning loyalty into slaughter. You're chasing Michael, once a brother in arms, through a crumbling sugar factory, while Project Militia rains hell from a helicopter. The gameplay here is tense, but deliberate. You're not sprinting through chaos for chaos's sake. You're stalking, choosing when to strike with that sickle, dragging enemies into those grinding blades with a wet crunch that somehow feels personal. There's a strange, dark humour in it. Watching grown men in baby masks get turned into strawberry syrup while Leo chuckles in your ear like it's just another Tuesday. But underneath the laughs is something colder. The slow realization that Daniel never had a choice. By the time you corner Michael on the rooftop, grab those boat keys and watch the betrayal land, the emotion isn't triumph, it's emptiness. A quiet, "This is who I am now," sits in your chest long after the screen fades. Then we cut to Safe House, and everything slows even more. Daniel wakes up in a dingy porn theater, head pounding, and Leo drops the bomb. "You killed Michael." That single line lands like a brick through glass. The purpose of this mission is awakening. Daniel's first real glimpse that the monster he's been hunting is himself. Gameplay pulls back from the factory frenzy into something more intimate and uncomfortable. You creep through gravel, revolver in hand, executing a guard who's too busy with his dirty magazine to notice death creeping up behind him. The auditorium ambush feels claustrophobic, like the walls are closing in on Daniel's mind, as much as it is on you. Shotgun blasts echo off the seats, but the real violence is internal. When you finally burst out onto the street and hurl that gun away in disgust, the feeling isn't relief, it's grief. Grief for Michael, for Judy, for the man Daniel used to be. These missions work really well because they refuse to rush you. They let the horror breathe. The violence isn't satisfying, sure, but the real hook is the emotional aftertaste. Dark, sticky, and weirdly funny in how messed up it all is. Manhunt 2 doesn't just want you to kill, it wants you to feel the cost of every kill. And in Best Friends and Safe House, that cost finally starts to register. That's the genius of these levels. They're short, but they linger. These two missions hit like a 1-2 punch to Daniel Lamb's already cracking psyche, pushing him deeper into the project's web, while forcing him to face the human cost of his choices. They're shorter, sharper, and packed with that signature manhunt unease, the kind where every kill feels personal. Bee's Honeypot is all about desperate answers. Daniel storms the sleazy Bee's Honeypot brothel, hunting Dr. Judy Sender, the one lead that might unlock his erased past. Leo keeps whispering she's useless, but Daniel won't listen. He's driven, stubborn, haunted. Flashbacks slam him right at the start, his wife begging him not to volunteer for the project, warning he's gambling their whole life for money that never came. That guilt simmers under every stealth takedown, prying open vents with stolen pliers, blasting mirrors to reveal hidden passages. The brothel's neon-drenched halls turn the violence intimate and nasty. There's again humour in how ridiculous it all is. Pimps and pervs in baby masks dropping like bad punchlines while Daniel chases truth. The rooftop finale. Judy grabs a crowbar, pleading, stop listening to him. Then a sniper's crack ends her. Daniel's left with another flashback and a fresh hole in his soul. One more person dead because he wouldn't let go. Right after, Assassination yanks us back to 2001. The flashback shows exactly how deep Daniel and Leo's bond runs, sniping a project investor, Stanley Grex, from a plaza office. Daniel pulls the trigger. Leo takes the wheel for the escape. Corridors, smashing lights for shadows, crane rides, rooftop cat and mouse with a chopper spotlight. Gameplay shifts to raw, exhilarating survival, but the real weight is the dialogue. Leo's smooth, trust me Danny, lands like a promise and a threat. It's thrilling in the moment, mercs dropping, tension spiking, yet it leaves this uneasy aftertaste. This perfect assassin teamwork is the cage Daniel built himself in. Together, these levels move fast but cut deep. Bee's Honeypot drowns you in regret and stubborn hope. Assassination shows the thrill that hooked him in. Manhunt doesn't let you enjoy the blood without tasting the rot underneath. And here, the rot tastes like family debt, broken trust, and one too many bodies. In Most Wanted and Ritual Cleansing, they really cranked the paranoia dial to 11 and then set it on fire. After everything Daniel Lamb has clawed through, Most Wanted and Ritual Cleansing remind him, and you, that running from the project isn't just a chase, it's a full-blown identity crisis with sirens. Most Wanted drops you straight into the streets of Cottonmouth as a walking wanted poster. The project doesn't bother with the subtlety anymore. They've sized the bloodhounds and half the local cops on Daniel and Leo. The purpose? To show just how deep the corruption runs. Even the law is on payroll. Gameplay opens up into sprawling urban cat and mouse ducking spotlights, slipping between alleys, and praying the helicopter doesn't turn the block into Swiss cheese. Every radio crackle, "This is your last chance, Lamb," hits like a personal insult. The feeling is pure, sweaty dread. You're not a killer anymore, you're prey. And the city itself feels like it's closing in. By the time you reach the train yard, that hollow exhaustion in Daniel's chest starts to feel a lot like acceptance. Then Ritual Cleansing flips the script from haunted to housekeeper. Leo decides it's time to torch every last file with their names on it inside the Cortexa warehouse. The mission's real purpose is symbolic erasure. Burn the paper trail, burn the past, pretend the Pikmin project never owned you. Gameplay slows into tense scavenging. Swipe gas cans from a lonely mechanic. Sneak past rent-a-cops who clearly drew the short straw on night shift. Then haul the fuel through shuttered loading bays while watchdogs patrol like they own the shadows. The gas station sightline triggers one of those brutal blackouts, flashing Daniel back to choices he'd rather forget. Emotions swing between grim satisfaction, watching those files go up in flames, and quiet nausea, because no amount of lighter fluid can scrub the blood off your hands. Together, these levels turn survival into something almost ceremonial. One leaves you feeling exposed and concerned. The other hands you the match and dares you to pretend you're free. Manhunt 2 never lets the fire feel warm. It just reminds you how much of yourself you had to burn to get here. The next two missions are Origins and Broadcast Interrupted, and they really drag Daniel Lamb right to the heart of the machine that broke him. And then they yank the plug before he can fix anything. After clawing through the streets and the warehouse flames, the pair finally stand at the source, and the payoff is as cold and clinical as the labs themselves. Origins is the one you've been waiting for, the moment Daniel comes face to face with Dr. Pickman, the man who designed the Pickman Bridge and turned 2 lives into a walking experiment. Leo spots him slipping into the project labs, and the mission's entire purpose snaps into focus. Capture the architect alive, force him to cut the implant out of Daniel's head, and maybe, just maybe, end the nightmare. The gameplay tightens into pure infiltration tension, slipping past security doors, dodging watchdogs and jittery scientists in the sterile corridors, all while that hypnotic trigger phrase hangs in the air like a loaded gun. Emotions swing between razor-sharp hope and stomach-dropping dread. This is the guy who wired their brains. Confronting him should feel like victory, but it lands like standing in your own grave. Then, broadcast interrupted, kicks the door open on the aftermath. Pickman's dead. The bridge is still in, and the only thread left is Dr. Laura White, the last name on the experiment roster. Clues from the labs point to the TVMK studios, so off they go, chasing one final Hail Mary. The studio is crawling with bloodhounds, who've turned the place into a kill zone, forcing raw, desperate run and gun through sets and control rooms. The irony of trying to broadcast the truth while dodging live bullets isn't lost on anyone. The feeling shifts from fragile hope to raw frustration. Every corner cleared just reminds Daniel how close freedom keeps getting, only to slip away again. Together, these levels turn the hunt personal in the cruelest way. One puts the monster in the room with you. The other proves killing the monster doesn't kill the curse. Rockstar did a good job at never letting the answers come easy. It just hands you the pen and lets you write the rest of the script. These 2 missions take Daniel Lamb from the edge of cracking completely to the one place that can still break what's left of him. After the broadcast falls apart, everything narrows down to the simple, brutal truth. The implant isn't just inside his head anymore. It's starting to own him. Altered State is the moment the Pickman Bridge fights back for real. Leo has to take over more and more because Daniel's vision is fracturing. The whole point here is to show how little of Daniel is still in the driver's seat. You move through twisted streets and abandoned blocks where nothing quite looks solid. Enemies blurring in and out, voices echoing like they're coming from inside your own skull. It feels disorienting and wrong in your gut. That slow panic of realizing the man you used to be is already halfway gone. Then, domestic disturbance drags him straight home. Daniel insists on going back to the old suburban house, the one place that might still have answers about his wife and son. The mission's purpose is quieter but heavier. It forces you to see exactly what the project ripped away. You creep through rooms that used to be normal. The house is wired and watched, turning a simple homecoming into a blood-soaked trap. By the time you fight your way out, the grief sits in your chest like something physical. All the killing in the world can't bring back what used to be waiting behind that front door. Back to back, these levels hit different. One shows the mind finally breaking. The other shows why any of it ever mattered in the first place. It doesn't ever give you closure. It just keeps reminding you how much Daniel had to lose before he could even start running. Okay, so before the finale, we just have a quick interview. It's with a fellow YouTuber named Hypertension Films. Please check him out. Whatever you think of these videos, multiply it by 1,000 and that's how you'll feel about his. He's got almost 15,000 subscribers. He makes video game content, but the most beautiful type you can imagine. So, I'd like to thank him for joining for this interview, helping little creators out, you know. Yeah, hope you enjoy.
I work in the physical therapy department, so I always tell people it's a lot of wiping butts and toning guts, you know?
I always thought, like, when I'm older and someone else is wiping my ass, do I get worried if they smile at me, or do I just appreciate it?
Yeah, I know. I try to just make it professional. Like, all right, let's get you click. It's like changing your oil. Like, all right, let's do it. Let's get it over with. You know, no big deal.
Yeah,
But if you're trying to have a conversation, hey, so how about the Red Wings? And you're just clinging their hole, you know?
So I did actually complete the game this time, and really enjoyed it. It was definitely a different route that Rockstar took. I'd like to ask, do you think the violence in Manhunt 2 differs from the usual style of Rockstar's games?
Sure. Well, in Manhunt 2, the violence is still really grisly and disturbing, but it's more deliberately over the top. It's kind of like a grindhouse film. It's violent, but it's nearly comical. So, for instance, every headshot, regardless of the caliber of the weapon, is an instant geyser of blood. It's it's as if Rockstar was doubling down on the violence after the response of the first game. Like, if you thought that was crazy, we're going all in. So it's still violent and disturbing in a lot of ways, especially some of the executions, but it's so silly and over the top that it almost feels like an homage to 70s and 80s grindhouse movies. It's so comically bloody and silly, whereas the first game was much more. I mean, the first kill that you do, as you know, is suffocating someone with a plastic bag, which to me is far more upsetting and disturbing than some of the stuff in Manhunt 2. I mean, sticking the guy's head in the nitrogen tank in the laboratory and crushing it. I mean, that's straight out of Jason X.
While
It's as silly as it gets.
your hands are
Yeah,
also
right,
in
right.
the nitrogen
Right.
tank.
I never considered that until just now.
Yeah, well, Daniel Lamb's he's a cold killer, so maybe it just doesn't affect him at all.
Yeah, there you go. Hey.
Speaking of like Rockstar's usual type of games, did when you played this game, did it feel like a regular Rockstar sandbox, like your GTA's, your even Bully? Kind of, it has different gameplay, but there's definitely that similar sandbox feel to it. It's definitely a different route, but still has that similar feeling. Do you think this game was something more linear or controlled?
The progression is absolutely linear, like the first game was, but the environments themselves are a mix between like mini sandboxes, kind of like on the streets of Cottonmouth. There's a little variety in how you can move around in different hiding spots and routes that you can take. And then you get funneled into little teeny tiny spaces like at the what's it called? The Fisto Sugar Factory. Those little teeny tiny little spaces that you get squeezed through. But for what it's worth, I never minded the linearity. I love a good linear single player game. Not everything has to be so open ended, but I think and it'll never happen, but I think if there was a Manhunt 3, having a little bit more of a bully style would be amazing.
That question in itself, I've seen a lot, is people disagreeing with the thought of there being another remake or a Manhunt 3. And I think
Mm,
I will be honest, I kind of disagree with it. I'm not saying Rockstar, well, maybe on if you look at it from the standpoint of Rockstar won't want to touch that project again, I can understand that. But I definitely think there could be similar games released today because of the worldwide better understanding of video games and video game violence and how it doesn't really correlate to real life violence.
I think that unfortunately, people have become more and more desensitized to real violence because now we all have our phones. And so you see every day. I mean, I just saw the video this morning of those Mexican National Guard troops getting just wiped out, and it's horrible. It's absolutely disgusting and terrifying, and that's real. So, if a game like Manhunt comes around, I think it's funny to say because 2007 doesn't seem that long ago, but it's 20 years ago basically, and that was just before the proliferation of smartphones and constant connections and stuff like that. So, I think back then, even though it wasn't so long ago, it was long enough to where an entire generation has come up on being exposed to real violence every day, which sucks and I hate it. And it's one of my many misgivings with humanity as a whole, but that's neither here nor there.
No, I definitely agree. There's definitely a desensitization towards violence. I was on Instagram Reels last week and I seen this dude at a barber shop's get his head blown off, and
Mm,
that's a website my daughter can access if she wanted to.
right,
Well, not really. She's
right,
2, but I mean, you know,
right, right.
but like she has an iPad, you could accidentally stumble across something like that. It's very prolific in social media. I
hmm
Another thing I picked up on when my mind was taking a little journey somewhere was the graphics on the PlayStation 2 were obviously not the greatest. Back in the day, it was how can they get better than this? This is fucking amazing. I've never seen anything like this. And now it's so extreme the change in graphics. I think there might be the smallest bit of backlash, but I even with these enhanced graphics
Sure.
and the realism, that desensitization towards violence would just completely cancel out any like negative feedback on a remake today.
I had this conversation with there's a guy on YouTube who's also a bit of a personal friend of mine. His channel is Digital Hauntology. His name is Nick, and he was talking to me about video game violence with Hotline Miami.
Oh yeah.
and the subject of Manhunt 3 came up because he knows I'm a big Manhunt head. And I said, honestly, I don't know if I would even want a modern day Manhunt with those super realistic graphics. And if they were, they'd have to be really stylized. Like, have you ever played Kane and Lynch 2?
Yeah.
You know how it's, they do the blur and they get the mosaic blur when you get a headshot and stuff like that. I hate to sound like the old guy now who's getting sensitive, but it is what it is, I guess. I don't know if I'd want a Manhunt 3 with GTA 6 graphics because Red Dead Redemption got pretty close there. I mean, there was some violence in that game that was really intense,
I
but it wasn't like cutting someone's neck on a VHS or whatever.
Yeah, those are random tools. I agree with that completely. I think again, another way you could look at it is a lot of games just need to be left alone. How many? Uh, Again, speaking of the Elder Scrolls, I love the Elder Scrolls. Um, but Skyrim got about 1,000 remakes to the point where I don't even like the game anymore. It's just it
I
needs
know, yeah,
some games need to
100%.
just need to be left alone, and I definitely agree. The arcadic style to the violence is definitely what draws you in, and it kind of detaches you from the game being too realistic or you taking it too seriously. There are some dark tones, but that arcadic style definitely disconnects the connection between that.
Yeah, well said.
Obviously, this Manhunt 2. I'm not sure about Manhunt, the first Manhunt. Again, I'm new to this game. I knew it existed, but I'm just kind of looking into it now. And obviously, the appeal of the ban in several countries, including my own, of Manhunt 2 was very prolific to me. And I realized that there was actually a shift in studio. And I'm pretty sure it was Rockstar Leeds that took Manhunt.
Yep.
Do you think the change in studio affected the tone of the game at all?
Yes, I do. Um, Manhunt 2 is a strange game, you may have noticed, in that it went through so many weird iterations. Everyone's heard about I don't know if you've heard about the voice of God concept, where originally the character was going to be compelled by a sort of a holy voice in their head. Much like many crazy people throughout time, I suppose. But there's also Frisbee the puppet, which actually had a texture. Somebody found the UV unwrap of Frisbee and modeled him. So Frisbee the puppet was going to be the thing that told you to go out and kill and all these crazy concepts. But even the stuff that ended up in the final game was changed a bit from when Rockstar Vienna had control of the project. For instance, I've read that the chapter order, the way just the game is structured, was much different originally, which is kind of crazy to think about. It's like, how much would that have changed it? And if you play through the game again, you think, oh, well, what if this scene was back here and yada yada. But even characters like Judy, the scientist lady from the project, she used to wear a BDSM outfit,
Nice.
whereas in the main game, yeah, she's always in her lab coat and her professional clothing, and she looks like any scientist. But yeah, in the original Vienna cut, I saw a loading screen picture of it. She was in this gimp outfit in the Deviant Club. So there was, and I'm sure you've read about it. There are a boatload of cut executions and even little details like female inmates being in the first level, where it's, as far as I remember, it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure all the inmates were male in Dixmoor Hospital. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff that got changed when Leeds took over. So 100%, there's big difference between the original version and what ended up coming out.
Two questions I'd like to follow up with from that you said is the God
Sure.
voice you were talking about and the puppet, were they in replacement of Leo or was it going to run alongside Leo?
From what I understand, I think that was like the original Leo, basically. So it's like, okay, the character's getting talked to by a voice. No, maybe we should have it be more of an object that speaks to you. How about a puppet that this guy talks to? And then I think from there, it birthed the idea of this split personality and Leo and the whole thing, I think, went from there. And I would imagine that's when the MK Ultra thing came online and off they went.
Oh, everything relates to MK Ultra. I posted a radio on Facebook Marketplace and people were accusing me of participating in MK Ultra. That's absolutely
Ha!
everywhere. I think that as goofy as the puppet approach sounds, I think it would be pretty cool. You know the way Kratos has the head on the back of his hip?
Oh, Mimir.
That's it. Yeah, sorry. I think that weirdly, I think it would be cool if they went with that puppet, maybe put it on his hip somewhere, and they just never indicated that it was the puppet speaking until the final mission. But then, how would you have a boss fight against the puppet?
Ah, you know what? I think I'm trying to remember what my script said for Manhunt 2 back however long it was ago now, a year or two. I think I kind of dogged the puppet idea and said like, ah, that's kind of dumb. I'm glad they didn't do that. But right when you said that just now, thinking about Mimir having sort of a, a little mouse in your pocket that encourages you to kill, sort of like the director in the first game whispering in your ear. I actually think that does sound pretty cool. And yeah, nobody else can hear him, so he can say whatever he wants.
Yeah,
And it can be loud and obnoxious, and he can yell at you to do things you don't want to do or whatever, whatever, and no one else can hear it. I also, that's a great idea. Also, maybe talking to other NPCs in the world, and they're like, "Who are you talking to?" Not realizing it's the bit of cloth on your waist is giving you instructions.
and there's also room there for that old school Rockstar comedy. Maybe give the puppet a funny voice, so it just makes the
Oh
interactions a
yeah,
lot funnier. But again, there's more serious tone. The second question leading off of that, I'm really dragging this out. I apologize, but I appreciate your
no,
time.
no, no, of
Is
course.
you mentioned that there was female inmates in the original, and they completely cut that. Do you think the lead studio had a sense that this game was a bit touch and go, and there was definitely some tones and aspects of the game that could be controversial? Do you think they maybe drew back on some of the stuff they definitely thought was controversial?
Could be. I mean, after what they went through with Manhunt 1 was a big controversy, especially with what happened in Leicester in the UK. There was a bit of heat surrounding Manhunt 1. And even though it was 4 years after the first game came out, I think there was still enough heat on them from Grand Theft Auto. And they had also gone through Hot Coffee, which was a huge, with San Andreas, which was a massive pain in their butt, I'm sure. So they probably, yeah, they said, you know what, we can probably cut this down. And also, too, I mean, if you kick aside a fully voiced, modeled character, you're also saving on memory. And they had to optimize the game for PSP, which originally, I guess, I read from a developer from Leeds who said that the game was originally going to look a lot better. Like they had all these modern techniques and made it look really flash, but then they had to tone it down to meet the requirements of the PSP. So maybe they were trying to save memory, and I'm sure there was some stuff because I can't remember what it was called. The female character had a weird name. It was like sobbing something or other. So it sounded pretty dark from what I understand. And I don't think you ever killed any females in Manhunt 1 or 2,
No,
as
because
far as I remember.
even the I again character names, but the first doctor from the project that died, she was shot by somebody else. You never actually kill her,
Right.
and that was the closest thing you'd see. There was definitely, I feel like, from what you said, them toning it down for the PSP, there was definitely a discouragement in the studio for the release of the game, probably branching off of the first release, and it was around the time the PlayStation 3 came out, so they definitely had room for enhanced graphics at the time.
Hmm.
Uh, this I already pretty much already asked. You could just keep this short. Is if this game was released today, would the reaction be different?
Yeah, and then like we talked about earlier, I mean, people are more desensitized, and so I think a game as it is, like Manhunt 2, wouldn't stand out as much. Obviously, we talked about the more realistic and the more graphic you can make things, the worse it can get. And I've played games like Blood Trail in VR, which is like, I mean, there are videos out there of people carving up bodies and like living out their fucking weird fantasies or whatever. And that, like, even that, it's just like too much for me. Like, I just don't care to live that out as much. So there's a certain line you can cross there. But I do know one thing that would never change is the opportunistic politicians that exist, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
And these scumbags now, much like we're getting exposed to more and more violence, these people are getting exposed more and more and more every day. And they love more than anything to deflect and distract. And video games have always been perfect fodder. So saying, hey, don't mind me funneling millions of dollars from some sham foundation. I'm trying to protect kids from video games. Don't you care about kids?
I
And,
seen I seen your video.
but
I'm pretty sure I seen that part as well. Wasn't the lead politician in this cancellation of Manhunt 2 up to some suspicious business himself?
yeah, Andrew Yee, I believe his name was, or Leland Yee, Leland Yee. That was his name. Yeah, he was he was selling weapons to the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. So, old Leland was up to no good.
Oh well, at least
All
he
the
was.
while,
At least he wasn't killing people in video games.
mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
real.
no, we can't have that.
No, just real people. Kill them.
Yeah, no big deal. I mean, what are the odds that those weapons get turned against anyone?
What a fucking moron.
Well, I don't think I need to use any names, but supposedly some of their husbands were on a certain island
Yeah.
recently.
Well, look, I think if we can't live in a world where you can eat babies and just not kill video game characters, then I don't want to be here.
Sounds like a utopia to me.
Yeah, exactly. So, after 15 chapters of this, you finally reach the end of Manhunt 2. And honestly, by that point the game has dragged you through so many dark alleys, abandoned buildings, and genuinely uncomfortable moments that the ending almost feels quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. Because the whole time you're playing, you're trying to figure out what's actually going on. Who Daniel really is. Whether Leo is real, whether he's just a voice in Daniel's head, or whether something even worse is happening behind the scenes. Eventually, the game gives you the answer. Daniel and Leo aren't partners, they are the same person. Leo is a personality, created during the Pikmin experiments, something designed to turn Daniel into a weapon, and the entire game has basically been a tug of war for control inside one man's mind, which makes a lot of the earlier moments hit differently once you know that. Every time Leo pushed Daniel forward, every time Daniel hesitated, every time things spiraled into violence, that wasn't just gameplay, that was the conflict. And the ending forces Daniel to finally confront that part of himself. Depending on how things play out, he either manages to reclaim control or he loses himself completely to the thing that was created inside him. There's no big heroic moment here. No celebration. No feeling like you've saved the day. It just ends. And honestly, that fits a game like this perfectly, because Manhunt 2 was never trying to make you feel good about what you were doing. From the very beginning, the game was designed to make the player feel uncomfortable. It pushed further than most games were willing to at the time, which is exactly why it caused so much controversy when it released. Some people saw it as pointless shock value, others saw it as a genuinely disturbing psychological horror story hidden inside a stealth game. But no matter where you land on that argument, one thing is pretty clear. Rockstar took a huge risk with this project. Instead of another massive open world crime game like GTA, development was handed to their UK studios, primarily Rockstar London with major support from Rockstar Leeds, and the result was something far darker and far more experimental than people expected, and nearly 2 decades later people are still arguing about it, which honestly might be the most interesting thing about Manhunt 2, because love it or hate it, people never forget it. Manhunt 2 wasn't designed to be comfortable, it was designed to stay with you, and judging by the fact you are here today, it worked.